Your head count, your expatriate head count is 523. And your Nigerians head count is 7,119. Expatriates, $338 million. I'm summing that up. While Nigerians, $151 million have been spent. Am I right? Adewu Saipem.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So please explain to us this unhealthy ratio and why you have not built capacity in country, especially with the transfer of skills.
Is the approval more superior than the Constitution of Nigeria? I just want to ask him. Is your board approval more superior to you than the Constitution of Nigeria?
We sent out letters seeking clarification on a number of things. The value of the Train 7 project, we asked for the true value of the NLNG Train 7 project. We asked for your workforce with regards to the Nigerians that were employed or are still employed in the construction of it. And the reason why we asked for the true value is because from that we would be able to calculate the 1% of your expected human capacity development across country. There are two figures floating. The first is $6.5 billion, that the NLNG Train 7 is worth $6.5 billion. On the other hand, we have a larger amount of $10 billion. So if we are speaking to the $6.5 billion, then the 60-20-20 human capacity development framework breakdown will be that institutional strengthening will amount to $39 million. 20% of advanced level training programs will be $13 million. And the basic job entry, or we would call auxiliary training, will be another $13 million. In total, Nigerians are expecting $6 to $5 million worth of human capacity development projects from the NLNG project alone. Now, if we're talking about the NLNG being $10 billion, then that would amount to $60 million spent on institutional strengthening projects and 2020 for training. That's $20 million each for trainings, totaling $100 million worth of projects across country. Now, to those who are quite new to what institutional strengthening means, is that for every project in the oil and gas sector, based on the value of the project, for projects over $500 million, of course, which the NLNG Train 7 falls in, 1% of that is to be spent for all of the aforementioned breakdown, the 60-20-20. And 60% of it means the NCDMB will work alongside the project owners to devise a framework and choose the institutions, be them the primary, secondary, or tertiary public institutions that will benefit from strategic programs that will help build capacity in these various learning institutions. Or they could decide to build laboratories or improve on the structures of the selected institutions. Now, when you talk about the trainings, the NCDMB would also embark upon trainings of workforce, both professionals or artisans as they may be, whereby we'll be able to strengthen their capacity and they will be employable again in this same oil sector. And of course, we could hope to export our skills someday. Now, we would give the floor to NLNG, being the project owners, and of course, we would like to hear from their contractors, Saipem, Daewoo, so they could let us know. Nigerians are eager to know. As much as we are celebrating the near completion of the Train 7, we would also want to know how much have you invested in Nigeria. Remember, when I say across country, that means across the 6 geopolitical zones. How have you spent your $65 million or $100 million, as it may be, on institutions across all the level of learnings? But let me remind you of certain facts. I got this from a report, the UBEC, the Universal Basic Education Council report, which mentioned great infrastructure deficit in the public primary and secondary schools. That presently in Nigeria, there are over 10 million children out of school. They are out of school largely because they can't afford education, or they do not have befitting educational facilities in a number of villages or towns, as it may be. It would interest you to note that about 39,000 public primary and secondary school classrooms are in horrible state. That means if I'm to speak or make a case for the public learning institutions, I will say that there's a huge gap in which these funds from NLNG Train 7 would help mitigate and probably upgrade the learning facilities of our public schools. So I'm giving the floor to NLNG. Please let us know first, what is the true cost, the true value of the NLNG project? How many Nigerians have you employed? How have you been able to deploy the expatriate quota to the very best? We do have figures that we would inquire on later. So you have the floor.
I will not go into details about the company, but just starting with Train 7. LNG Train 7 expansion project is meant to increase our capacity from what we currently have to 35%. That is growing our capacity from 22 million tons per annum to 30 million tons per annum. In terms of state of the project, we're about 60% complete of the project, and it's expected that the project will be completed in 2026, which is planned as the start-up date. Capacity from 22 million tons per annum to 30 million tons per annum, which is expected to be a 35% increase in our production capacity. And I said we're about 60% into the project. In terms of project costs, yes, we've seen figures around 10 million, 6 billion. The actual project cost for Train 7 is $4.3 billion. And the reason why I think it's referenced as $10 billion, the other investments that Train 7 is expected to attract, and those investments outside of what I've mentioned, $4 billion, is investment around upstream gas development. It's expected that upstream gas suppliers would invest in gas infrastructure to ensure that partly we have feed gas coming to the plant when it is commissioned and ready for production. But in terms of the Train 7 project itself, investments which the company has made in ensuring that that project FID is taken is $4.3 billion and not $10 billion or $6 billion.
So are you letting us know now, or are you telling Nigerians that $6.7 billion worth of upstream gas development investment is being taken up by your investors? And would you mind mentioning these investors, please?
Well, I don't have the details. I can probably come back to you on that, but NLNG is not the one investing in that infrastructure.
But you should know those who are going to provide the feed gas. Well, so just call them. Is it Total, Shell, Chevron, so that we can also invite them, because to a large extent, we know you are NLNG and you're going to speak to the NLNG project primarily.
Yeah.
But now we are made to understand that there are secondary investment. There's a secondary part of it that is also crucial to the success of the Train 7. So we would also want a chance, if you can mention them, then we would invite them to speak to us and throw more light. So that way you'll be able to save the misfortune of so many interpretations online. I appreciate the fact that you're able to speak to mention that your project value is 4.3 billion. At least now we have a figure. I believe that's excluding the variations, right?
Well, so I'm just addressing the specific question now. How much did NLNG invest in terms of cost of a project? The thing with, I want to plead. I can only speak for what NLNG is investing in and how much we're investing. I know that there will be upstream investors, and usually it's slightly complicated if I start going into specific organizations or companies that are investing, because I can't speak for them.
Mr. Andy, I understand how the NLNG works.
Yeah.
And I know that there are certain agreements that are always in place even before you commence construction, like the gas supply agreement. Who do you have your gas supply agreements with? That will enable us know who the investors in the upstream gas development are. Who do you have your gas supply agreement with?
To say that you are possibly trying to be a little bit evasive. Contract figure of 4.3 billion, you have, can I say, dodged saying whether that is with variations or not. The related projects you refer to, I want to believe, are all part of the same development, although you are trying to push them aside by saying there are other investors. But even in the Train 7, NLNG will not be the only investor. So let's talk about the total project cost and not investment, because the investment sidelines maybe where we're going. We're trying to see, A, the local content and how that has been deployed. And by giving us the wrong figures, you're throwing us a banana peel.
Distinguished Senator, the entire cost for 27 projects, what I was referring to, not any other investment outside of the 27 project. FID was taken, that amount of money is what is the money strictly for 27 project by Nigeria LNG. By Nigeria LNG.
A small question I want to ask you. You are guaranteeing to us here that by the time you commit 4.3 billion, you start exporting liquefied natural gas without the other ancillary investments. Am I right?
As of today, that's what we have as the cost of investment from Train 7.
What I'm asking you is, by the time you commit 4.3 billion, you will start exporting liquefied natural gas without the ancillary investments, right?
Yeah, I'll say yes.
Possible, because you need the gas. So this $4.3 billion is what is being invested now in the plant, should we call it. You are still going to get back to us on the attracted investments in the upstream gas development, which will help supply the gas. So let us leave it that we are still expecting that figure. Well, first, the names of the companies that are the core investors, okay? And most often, they are usually your partners. May I ask you, who are the partners? Who are the stakeholders in NLNG?
Shareholders, and the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, PLC, Limited, owns 49%. Shell Gas BV owns 25.6%. Total Energies Gas and Electric Holding France owns 15%. And ENI International owns 10.4%. They are the shareholders of Nigeria LNG.
So let me put it now and correct it. The gas supply will come from Shell, Total, and ENI.
Well, say yes, because currently they are gas suppliers to Nigerian NLNG, so possibly. But like I said, we will come back to you on details concerning gas supply for Train 7.
Fine, thank
you. Capacity building and institutional strengthening. So outside or even before Train 7, if the committee permits, just to mention a few of our interventions that has enabled us to understand why and how such investments or such opportunities, when they arise, we invest in them in the interest of our country and communities where we operate. Today, on Bonny Island, there's the Bonny Utility Company, which we have invested in since inception. And that we did initially with the Joint Industries Committee made up of Shell, initially ExxonMobil that has exited that arrangement, Nigerian NLNG. Fully funded, and currently power availability in Bonny Kingdom is a minimum of 95% on a steady basis. It took a lot to do that because it means setting up a company for the community, with the community, where houses are metered, power is paid for to ensure its sustainability. We came out of a space where you had almost 30 diesel generators or more on the island, but evolved from that to now having power fully supplied to the kingdom. Also, apart from power, I also built and supported water, potable water on the island, where we built water treatment plants, installed Britwit tanks, about 4 of them within the community. Water is also supplied to the community. Now, also through Bonny Utility Company to ensure that it's sustainable. Apart from power, one area where something that is very close to us in terms of institution, capacity building and people is the Bonny Vocational Center. During the early days of our projects, the base projects in the 90s, we found out that with the community, found out that when you initiate FID and a project like that brings a lot of people onto the island to be on the construction site, there was a need to begin to identify opportunities for our own people to be able to work, one, on the construction site, and post-construction, be able to also be employable beyond just the LNG project. So today, there's a Bonny Vocational Center, fully funded, fully in operations. It's City and Gate certified. It's also certified by the Nigerian Board for Technical Education, and also the Management Center Europe supports it in terms of certification. To date, the center has graduated 1,800 young Nigerians from across the country, but mostly from River States, or the Niger Delta. Of these, 920 have passed through the advanced diploma program. And we're happy to say that of all those that have passed through in the last 15 to 16 years of the center, 65% of them are fully employed. Fully employed, either directly as through our subcontractors or have found jobs elsewhere. A percentage of the 40 or 37, 38, some have set up their own businesses. We're trying to track them, but to say that this is an initiative that has continued to strengthen capacity within our community, within the Niger Delta, and within Nigeria. There are other programs that I would not really want to bore you with because we have them listed on some of the presentations we've made. Is the microcredits and vendor finance.
Sorry, Mr. Andy, we're pretty much very tired, and
okay.
A number of us have other committees to attend.
Okay.
What you've just listed, they fall under, we appreciate the fact that you have found it worthy to give back to the communities that you invest in, right? Or that you situate your investments. I mean, the vocational center, the water project, electrification of the communities. Thank you so much. But these are not captured by what our mandate seeks to regulate. So please, just to cut you a bit short, let's speak to the 4.3 billion, as you say, is the project value. 4.3 billion, that means 1% of it is $43 million. Can you please tell us how you have invested in human capacity development? $43 million. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, distinguished senators. Indeed, for the Train 7 projects, we have an approval and set aside $10 million.
Sorry, please, do you mind if we take this moment to recognize, have some senators?
So I said for the Train 7 project, we do have $10 million approved and set aside for human capital development on the project.
Who approved $10 million? Are you clear? Are you conversant with the law, the human capacity development law? Are you? One, let me clarify. Okay, for the senators that are just joining us, here's a little recap. NLNG gracefully told us that the project, as it stands today, is worth $4.3 billion, excluding the attracted investments that will bring forth the feed gas to the project. They promised getting back to us on the investors and the value of the attracted investment. But then let's bench this discussion on the $4.3 billion. We're here to talk about the 1% of the human capacity development that is expected of you. And if it's $4.3 billion, that means the human capacity development project should be worth $43 million. And you were saying that there is an agreement or an approval for NLNG to spend $10 million for human capacity. So can you tell us about the approval? Is there a contract to that? Who gave you the? You map the law. Okay, repeat, please. Do you mind explaining, taking time to explain that again?
Distinguished senators. Yes, I said for the Train 7 project, we have set aside $10 million for human capital development. It's broken into 3 parts.
To be clear, you set aside, that means it's voluntarily. You did not abide by the law. You are setting that aside, $10 million, but you're aware that it should be $43 million. That is if it's 4.3, right?
Sorry, Chairman. First of all, it's for him.
Chairman and distinguished senators. For the Train 7 project, we do have the approval to spend $10 million from the regulator, which is the NCDMB. And that's what we have set aside to execute human capital development.
Can you furnish us with the approval, please? We would like to take a look at the approval. And the regulator, you said, that is the NCDMB.
NCDMB, yes.
When we want to look at the letter that approved that, and probably the contract, the framework, everything that you have connected to that.
Yeah. If I may speak briefly, the framework is guided by the HCD guidelines from the board, and the approval is part of the dossier that we have furnished the committee with.
Yourself in a position in government, is the approval more superior than the Constitution of Nigeria? I just want to ask him. Is your board approval more superior to you than the Constitution of Nigeria? You're on camera.
For the Train 7 project, the approval we have...
You need to answer my question. You need to answer my question. Is your board approval more superior than the Constitution of Nigeria?
The regulator manages the Nigerian content space.
No, before you start this job, are you fully aware of what the Constitution says? And if the regulator tells you tomorrow to go and steal, you go and steal because he told you to steal. And that's why I'm asking you, and you don't want to answer my question. I said, is your board approval more superior than the Constitution of Nigeria?
So, you know, I may not be able to speak on behalf of the regulator. I can only speak.
So you don't, if you can't recite national anthem?
Wait, I think we have NCDMB here, right? NCDMB, where are you?
Is this here in Nigeria? Yeah. What is happening?
Under the management of Simbi, I believe, and the Minister Silva. granted them an approval that is contrary to the law. And we would also like to know, was there a proposal or a request from NLNG to bring down that value from $43 million to $10 million? We need more light, and we would appreciate documents to this.
Before my appointment as the Director of Corporate Services, I was the Director of Capacity Building when the approval for the LNG project was granted.
Which year, when was it, and do you have a copy of that?
Yes, so the approval was sent to LNG in the year 2019. That was before the new HCD guideline kicked in. So if we send the document, I don't have a print, but I have an electronic copy of it here. Yeah. If we share that document with you, we show that we reference the 2014 HCD guideline. Now that HCD guideline, in terms of the spend on capacity, on employment and training, which is clause 29 and 30 of the NLNG Act. Yeah, that guideline looked at the percentage of project man hours. Yeah. Now, when it comes to the project man hours, we were struggling to agree with the companies what the actual man hour would be in play. Today, because we have executed the project up to 65% or 60%, we are in a position to tell you this how much man hours have been expended on the project. But at the time of planning,
we're not talking about manpower or workforce. We're getting there. We're still coming to that.